This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Presidential rivals George Bush and Michael Dukakis took more heavy shots at each other today. Dukakis said Bush has helped to deny college to millions of Americans with a, quote, assault on loans and grants. And Bush again attacked Dukakis' defense policy as, quote, dangerous for America. As Bob Schieffer reports, Bush's talk to an audience of veterans in Louisville was overshadowed by a strange happening.
After Ronald Reagan fired them up last night with a rousing speech, George Bush's visit to the American Legion Convention was supposed to be the perfect place to hit Michael Dukakis hard on defense issues. Instead, it was a day for the Blooper Hall of Fame.
Today, you remember. I wonder how many Americans remember. Today is Pearl Harbor Day. 47 years ago to this very day, we were hit and hit hard at Pearl Harbor. And we were not ready.
Bush went on for more than a minute. Finally, as the audience began to titter, he realized he was 3 months off.
Did I say September 7th? Sorry about that. December 7th, 1941. This year, 47 years ago. I'm glad I corrected that. I saw this guy shaking me off out here. December 7th, 1941.
Once back on track, Bush finally got to the scheduled attack on Dukakis.
I do not question his patriotism, but patriotism is not the issue. The issue is how best to deter war, to keep the peace, to fulfill our country's unique responsibility as leader of the free world.
As for the Pearl Harbor mix-up, Bush said later it was just a slip. He just got carried away. Well, not to worry. If any group can be counted on to remember Pearl Harbor Day, it's this one. And now they're sure to remember September 7th, too. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Louisville.
We're going to call it the STARS program.
Throughout the campaign, Dukakis has been saying that any high school graduate qualified for college should be able to go, regardless of ability to pay. Today at Kane College in New Jersey, he spelled out how he'd do that.
I want to use an approach entirely independent from Social Security, but based on the same principle. To open wide the door of college opportunity to every youngster in this country.
Here's how it would work. A student would borrow the money he needed from a bank or some other private institution. The government would guarantee the loan.
The loans would be available to any student in need of financing for college or vocational or graduate school.
Repayment would work through withholding taxes. In any given year, the government would set a rate. Dukakis staffers say it might be, say, 1/8% on every $1,000 you borrow. Student Jones borrows $16,000. So, just like Social Security, Jones pays an extra 2% withholding tax on his income up to a certain point. Like Social Security, some in well-paying jobs would pay back more than they borrowed. Others in lower-paid jobs would pay back less. Overall, the fund would balance, the banks would get their money back, and the federal government would pay only to administer the program.
The poor can get assistance, and the very affluent can afford to go to college, but middle-income families are squeezed.
The mechanisms to assist middle-income people are not really very satisfactory, and so I think the governor has put forward a very interesting proposal.
The proposal is meant to help the middle class. George Bush has suggested a less sweeping plan under which the interest on savings bonds would be tax-free if applied to college tuition. Dukakis' plan is more complicated and may prove hard politically to explain and sell. Dan?
Thank you, Bruce. A Jewish publication is making serious allegations tonight about an ethnic outreach coalition, that's what it was called, that George Bush appointed for his presidential campaign. Washington Jewish Week reports that the coalition members include an anti-Semite, one who has ridiculed the Holocaust, as well as people with apparent fascist associations. There is no immediate independent confirmation of this report. A Bush spokesman, Mark Goodman, today said campaign officials will look into the charges and, if they are true, take action. Democrats today again questioned the record with George Bush's commitment to the war on drugs. They said that while Bush is talking tough, he has hired aides who once worked for an alleged drug trafficker, the leader of a Caribbean country. Leslie Stahl has our report.
At a time when the vice president is supporting the death penalty for drug kingpins, the Democrats, in a new political development, charged today that Bush has surrounded himself with campaign advisors who are on the payroll of the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Lyndon Pindling. For several years, Pindling has been investigated by U.S. attorneys in Florida on charges of receiving money from drug traffickers. But Pindling has not been indicted.
I think it speaks very badly for a man who is supposed to be in charge of the effort against drugs when his key political people are people who just a couple years ago were peddling themselves to people whom this own administration said were drug runners.
State Department records show that the firm of Black, Manafort, and Stone worked for the Pindling government as its Washington lobbyist in 1985 and 86 for more than $700,000. Members of the firm are now high-ranking Bush campaign officials, including campaign manager Lee Atwater, campaign scheduler Paul Manafort, and senior advisor Charles Black.
Lee did not work on that account at all. The Prime Minister wanted to both improve the image and to take serious action to improve the cooperation with the U.S. government in trying to bust drug runners, and he did that and we helped.
But in 1984, when Pindling was facing drug dealing charges, Black's firm solicited him as a client in a memo that said, quote, "The Drug Enforcement Agency and the Department of Treasury could be viewed as active critics of Pindling administration policy." The firm made Pindling sweeping promises about its personal connections in the Reagan administration and said, "The time is ripe to deal with these negative perceptions." The Democrats, working with the Dukakis campaign, are hoping to connect today's charges with last week's revelation that Dan Quayle's campaign advisor, Stu Spencer, once worked for the Panamanian government controlled by General Noriega, and to use the issue to question Bush's commitment to the war on drugs. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, Washington.
The Securities and Exchange Commission today said it has filed insider trading charges against Drexel Burnham Lambert and one Michael Milken, head of Drexel's junk bond trading unit. Milken reportedly made $16 million last year. Today's SEC action followed 2 years of the biggest brokerage investigations ever. A spokesman said many of the transactions involved former stock speculator Ivan Boesky, who went to prison after pleading guilty to insider trading. Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, Deborah Potter with the story of public health care on the critical list, and Charles Osgood on the heavy heart of the heavyweight champ.
You should have seen this Whirlpool cooktop a little while ago. My husband made chili. I said, from now on, use a pot, okay? But with this smooth ceramic surface, it was so easy to clean. And in here, I found a small meteorite. My son swears it was a TV dinner. Whatever it was, Whirlpool's self-cleaning oven took care of it. Heck, the way my Whirlpool appliances clean up, I feel just like June Cleaver.
We're making your world a little easier, Whirlpool.
My folks just left.
Thank you. When a man
The new Subaru Justy gets you anywhere you want to go, less expensively than any other four-wheel drive car.
Mr. Potts, you're home.
Of course. What brings you out on a night like this, James?
Up to $1,000 cash back from Subaru means a great deal on a great car.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux, now with special savings.
The National Academy of Sciences set off alarms today about the public health system in this country. Deborah Potter begins our coverage.
The report paints a dismal picture of the nation's public health system, an inefficient patchwork that leaves millions of Americans without decent care.
The health care delivery system and public health have lost one another. And in the process, they've lost their way.
The study found that public health services are spotty at best and in some parts of the country non-existent, making it all but impossible to address national problems from toxic waste to teenage pregnancy. When action is taken in cases like AIDS, politics often plays a bigger role than health concerns. So in some areas, AIDS testing has a higher priority than prevention and care.
The idea that access to health care would be determined on the basis of what the political constituency in Texas or New Jersey or California or New York is, seems to me unacceptable.
The report says that making health care available to everyone is the ultimate responsibility of the federal government, especially for the 30 million Americans who have little or no insurance.
If we leave it to the states, we will have a hodgepodge of inconsistent care available, and there will still be people who fall through the cracks.
And a system that is already overwhelmed, the report says, is incapable of dealing with a major crisis like the next epidemic.
The American people must understand that everyone's health will suffer in the long run if we do not take care now to rebuild the capability of and confidence in our public health agencies.
But healthcare professionals say that would take a political will that hasn't been evident so far, leaving the United States with a public health system that lags behind almost every other major industrialized country. Deborah Potter, CBS News, Washington.
For hundreds of Chicago children, the first day of school was spent in the doctor's office getting the required vaccinations.
Okay, it's over.
For many of these children, it's the first time they have seen a doctor since they were born, because in the city's poor communities, health care is not the top priority.
Patients would prefer to concentrate on what they're going to eat or where they're going to sleep or how their children are going to be clothed.
Because they don't have insurance, tens of thousands in Chicago depend on Cook County Hospital, where some wait more than 6 months to get an appointment.
In Chicago, it's becoming a real crisis. There are whole areas of the city where there's simply no place to go.
Lack of care is one reason. In Chicago, the black infant mortality rate is the nation's second highest. Healthcare advocates say the nation has misplaced priorities.
We're spending tens of billions in end-of-life, high-tech, comatose situations, while millions of people walk the streets with undetected blood pressure, and babies are born prematurely to die or to have awful lives.
Because of school regulations, all Chicago children must start class with proper immunizations. The unanswered question is, will the nation do what's needed to keep them healthy? Gary Reeves, CBS News, Chicago.
The making of freeze-dried Taster's Choice coffee. Search the world for the finest coffee beans. Grind them. And at the peak of freshness, brew the richest, most aromatic coffee you can brew. Then freeze it. Freeze drying locks in the fresh brewed aroma and flavor until you release it. For a truly superior cup of coffee, the choice for taste is Taster's Choice.
Taste it. Having fun with my daughter, Kim, wasn't always easy for me to do. It's not that I didn't want to. Oh, I did. But sometimes constipation would slow me down. I tried a harsh chemical laxative, but they can be irritating or work too suddenly. Well, I found something I could live with. Metamucil fiber therapy. Pure Metamucil fiber regulates you naturally, safely. After all, fiber is what helps keep you regular. But I just wasn't getting enough. With Metamucil every day, I get plenty. So I'm regular now, and I'll stay that way. Gives you a whole new perspective on life. More fun. Come on, Mom. Here goes nothing.
Metamucil, and you could stay regular for the rest of your life.
When you buy Corning prescription lenses that change, it's like getting free light tints, free medium tints, dark tints, and a range of free sunglasses all in one. Corning lenses that change. The only eyeglasses you'll ever need.
Part of our national heritage is under threat and on fire tonight. Wildfires already have burned more than 635,000 acres of Yellowstone Park. Tonight they menace one of the nation's most scenic sites. The so-called North Fork fire closed in on the hotel and campgrounds of the legendary Old Faithful Geyser after scorching some 150,000 acres. And well to the northeast, the 70,000-acre Storm Creek fire lays siege to two small communities bordering the park. Wind-driven flames funnel through the canyon, which is home to Cook City and Silver Gate, Montana. Fires may be part of nature's pattern, but Bob McNamara reports the stakes are high in this war against the wilderness flames.
This morning came the fight to save Cook City. The fire igniting just before dawn on the edge of this tiny Montana tourist town and quickly building into a raging wall of flame sounding like a jet as it roared through the forest. All of it a sickening sight to Dick Porter, who's lived most of his life here.
It's kind of like losing one of your kids, you know. Nothing you can do about it, and you just watch her boil off. 57 years down the toilet.
Also today, though tourists were evacuated from hotels around Yellowstone's Old Faithful geyser because of the fire danger, tour buses still arrived for the geyser show. But for those with reservations at the Old Faithful Inn, there was no room tonight. Still, despite saving a small Montana town today, the fight to stop the raging Yellowstone blazes is mostly a losing battle.
The only way we're going to control this whole situation is to get some rain or snow.
The 13 big fires in and around Yellowstone have scorched more than 1 million acres of timberland. And Montana is so fire-prone that hunting, camping, and other activities in the woods are now banned indefinitely. But what still angers many is a Park Service policy to let park fires burn themselves out.
Only God can make a tree, and all the congressmen and the goddamn park officials can't build one little twig. Yeah, but they can sure let them go.
The political heat has reached Washington. Wyoming Senator Malcolm Wallop telling Interior Secretary Hodel today that Park Service Chief Mott should resign.
To let nature take its course has damn near destroyed nature in the greater Yellowstone area.
Knowing what I know now, in hindsight, we would have tried to put out every fire that's now burning as quick as we could have.
But it's too late, and today the worst wildfires in more than 200 years total staggering numbers. Right now, with 27 major blazes burning in 8 states, an area the size of Delaware has been scorched. And on top of that, federal officials estimate if Mother Nature can't put the fires out soon, it could cost taxpayers $270 million to do it. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Cook City, Montana.
Not flames, but rains, with a danger today along Florida's central Gulf Coast, where 3 days of downpours turned streets into rivers. Juan Vasquez is there.
More than a foot of rain has much of west central Florida underwater. In Bradenton today, sheriff's deputies let 1,000 people out of their homes due to the fast rising water. That came after authorities were forced to open the floodgates of a nearby lake to prevent even worse flooding.
This is the Tampa Fire Department. If you care to evacuate, now is the time.
In Tampa, one man was killed when his car went off the road into a ditch filled with water. Passers-by rescued 3 people. The flooding is significantly worse than the last hurricane to hit the region.
15 inches rain and, you know, a 48-hour, 72-hour period, that's quite a lot of rain for anywhere, and for a flat state like Florida, it's just, you know, catastrophic.
Virtually every river in the area is several feet above flood level and rising. The Florida National Guard has been placed on standby in case the rainfall moves to the east, as residents here try to hang on and stay dry. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Tampa.
In Tallahassee, Florida today, a woman who said she picked the first 6 numbers she read in her daily newspaper claimed America's richest lottery prize ever. Sheila Ryan, who said she's single and childless, said she did not know what she would do with her $55 million prize. A 63-year-old real estate broker from Winter Springs, she can pick up her first check for more than $2,700,000 next week.
Yes, I did.
Are you getting more than you want out of your high-fiber cereal? Like sodium and added sugar? If what you want out of your high-fiber cereal is high fiber, you should be eating Fiber One. You get more fiber with Fiber One, and Fiber One is low in sodium and has absolutely no added sugar. So get more of the fiber your body needs and less of the stuff it doesn't. Get Fiber One.
This is John Overly, and this is his farm. It's the Benjamin Moore Paint Farm. Out here, John tests thousands of Benjamin Moore paints to make sure they'll withstand years of sun and cold, rain and snow without cracking, peeling, or fading. These tests help make Benjamin Moore the only paint good enough for the Reynolds family and their new home. They wouldn't settle for anything less, would you?
When something means so much, see your Benjamin Moore dealer.
When my minor arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil gives me hours of relief from arthritis pain, and it's gentler to my stomach than aspirin. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
This man is twice as strong as this man. Tums EX is twice as strong as Rolaids, so when you have heartburn, get the stronger acid neutralizer. Tums EX, twice as strong as Rolaids.
The Soviet-Afghan cosmonaut team stranded in space for 26 hours tonight is reported in good health back on Earth. The two men were welcomed home this morning Moscow time as heroes. As correspondent Barry Peterson reports, the Soviet commander tried to downplay the danger they faced.
It was the happy ending the Soviets promised, a picture-perfect landing in Soviet Central Asia. The pilot describing the last few minutes as feeling like a ride down a cobblestone road. At Mission Control, a tense all-night vigil gave way to celebration with news the men were safe and sound. Soviet reporters were quickly on scene, their pictures beamed around the world even before they were seen in the Soviet Union. The capsule commander, veteran space pilot Vladimir Lyakov, shrugged off the crisis. We were never in danger, he said. We kept the situation under control. Still, there are questions about pilot error. One top Soviet official says Lyakov should have taken manual control and brought his ship home as soon as the computer malfunctioned. But he returned safely, and that's grist for the Soviet propaganda mill. The Soviets have long boasted about how well their space program works, especially in comparison to the United States. Now they can boast about how well it works, even when there is trouble. But Western experts say this time the Soviets were fortunate.
They put it together too quickly, trained the crew too sketchily, and they wound up with the kind of problem that they deserved. And they didn't get out of it through good luck. They got out of it because the people involved, their flight control people and the cosmonaut up there, were experienced.
And there was worried Monday morning quarterbacking from the Soviets. Maybe they were less careful, less concentrated, said the head of training, warning that cosmonauts may be so accustomed to easy success, they have forgotten how important it is to have everything right, have forgotten how dangerous space travel can really be. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
President Reagan has invited the foreign ministers of Israel and Egypt to meet with him at the United Nations in 3 weeks. It would be a final Reagan effort to revive the U.S. Middle East peace plan. No reply yet from either country. The meeting would come just before Israel's elections and our own. In flood-devastated Bangladesh, a glimmer of hope today. Levels of major rivers are falling, but 3/4 of Bangladesh is still underwater, and more than 20 million people are homeless. Relief supplies can't get in because of washed-out roads and airports.
Noisy 4-year-olds, an absent assistant, and Susan Macy is left with a headache that's going from bad to worse. That's why her next move is to Metaprin. Metaprin has the same medicine as Motrin, and nothing's proven faster for relief of headache pain or any kind of pain. It's also gentler to your stomach than aspirin. Metaprin works fast when you haven't got time for the pain.
Mom sure make life easier. Mine did. Like another mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. Phillips Mom helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Even has this convenient dosage cup. Nobody treats you better than Mom.
Rich stain and tough polyurethane protection in one. Polyshade by Minwax. Get a beautiful finish in half the time. A finish to be proud of. Polyshades by Minwax.
How do you figure your financial future? How do you get an advantage? Look for an edge. Look for a company that can sharpen your opportunities in mutual funds, pensions, IRAs,
employee benefit plans, insurance, and much more. Look for the Principal Edge from the Principal Financial Group, one of America's largest, helping people with the fine points of their financial future. The Principal. Look for the Edge.
The United States lost to Cuba today in the World Baseball Championships, and it was upset afternoon at the U.S. Open Tennis Championships here in New York. 11th seeded Zina Garrison from Houston, who was winless in 21 previous matches against Martina Navratilova, defeated Navratilova 6-4, 6-7, 7-5. Navratilova, who was seeded second, was pursuing her third straight U.S. Open title, but she lost. Late today, world heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson checked himself out of a New York hospital where he was admitted after an automobile accident last weekend. The accident was serious enough that doctors recommended Tyson not train for at least 30 days, forcing postponement of his next fight. But none of that reveals just how serious Mike Tyson's out-of-the-ring problems may be. Charles Osgood reports.
What the New York Daily News headlines were screaming today was a shocker. Mike Tyson is the last man in the world you'd think would try to kill himself. Millions envy him. At 22, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, earning over $20 million a fight, living with his beautiful young bride, actress Robin Givens, in a $4.5 million mansion. Tyson was surely a winner with all the talent, fame, and fortune he'd ever dreamed of.
I was going to be successful. There's going to be people coming out of the woodworks all over the world. Everyone in the world was going to know me.
Yet for some time now, it's been clear that things have been going better for Tyson in the ring than out. 3 years ago, Cus D'Amato, his old friend, trainer, and mentor, died. Mike wished so much Cus could have seen him become champ.
It was like your father, and they're talking with you, and you wanted to impress your father.
In the last several months, there's been one incident after another. Manager Jim Jacobs died in March. In May, there was a car accident, Tyson losing control of his Bentley, the papers said, after his wife Robin had slapped him in an argument.
We're very normal and very much in love, and maybe if they printed that, no one would care.
In July, there was a lawsuit. In August, a street fight, Tyson meeting and punching a one-time ring opponent, Mitch Blood Green. Then, this past Sunday, near his Catskills training camp, yet another car crash, this time with Mike alone in the car, running it into a tree. He was taken to a hospital in New York City. Today's Daily News story says this time it was no accident. The deliberate attempt on Tyson's part to take his own life. The news quotes family members and friends as saying what happened was that Tyson had been arguing with his wife, fighting with her, beating her, threatening her, and telephoned her that morning to say he was going to take the car out and crash it. Manager Bill Caton says there's no way that story can be true.
There are lies after lies, which are obvious lies, and the article, I think, is for that reason one that has no legitimacy of any kind.
If the sensational newspaper story is true, that wouldn't surprise Harry Edwards.
It's an individual kind of a sport, and beyond one's manager and one's immediate family, there are not a lot of people that you can really turn to with trust.
Sounds like what Tyson was telling us before the Spinks fight.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't have no friends. I don't want people near me. I don't want people near my wife. I don't want people near my family. When you come down to it, no one cares about us.
The suicide attempt story is still unconfirmed. But even if it is not true, anyone who had been envying the life of Mike Tyson might think again.
I don't know. It has to be more out there. You know what I mean? I just feel in my bones this is not the end. It has to be so much more.
Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Kathleen Sullivan.
And I'm Charles Osgood. Tomorrow, highlights from day one of the America's Cup.
Also, we'll take you behind the scenes at the MTV Awards on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Clark.
And I'm Brenda Blackman. Up next on Eyewitness News, an extraordinary settlement against Baptist Hospital in a lawsuit filed by the family of a Nashville woman given drugs that resulted in brain damage.
A Louisiana prison escapee who hid himself in Tennessee for 18 years pleads for his freedom, and a pitiful problem that needs federal attention.
Those stories, plus the governor's plan to bring Tinseltown to Tennessee, next on Eyewitness News.